Hey cuties, PeachY here, welcome back to a new video, and in this video we have some very juicy Monster High tea. We have more intel on how Monster High came to be with never before seen sketches, concept art, and yes, even more doll prototypes. So let's get into it. This is all thanks to the designer that used to work at Mattel, Lily Martinez. They posted a two-part story on their TikTok, which I will link down below, and here are some of the most important clips where she talks about the Mattel Monster High creative process. It's very interesting.
Hey, so you guys had so many questions about Monster High. I'm here to tell you a little bit about my story with Monster High. So my name's Lily Martinez and I'm a designer. I worked at Mattel from 1998 to 2015. And during that time, I worked with the most talented, incredible people, as well as I got the chance to create some really cool doll lines for Mattel, as well as obviously the #1 fashion doll in the whole entire world, Barbie. Without further ado, here's a little story time on how I came up with Monster High dolls. So Monster High was a concept that a packaging designer, and for all of you guys that do collect Monster High and follow Monster High, I'm sure you know him. This packaging designer was Garrett Sander. He had a great idea that were basically the daughters of famous monsters, Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolf, etc. It was a great story. This story was pitched to our department boss, and unbeknownst to me, I don't know what was pitched to her, but she then later approached me asking me to work on these dolls. And she told me about the concept. She said she loved it and she wanted to see what I could come up with. I said, okay, I'll come up with something. If you know me personally, I'm a doodler. I doodle all the time. And so, I doodled some sketches with something like this. These are the original doodles that I created for Monster High. Very rough, very just put some pen on paper to create these dolls, and then later I render them into illustrations, which are these. These are the original illustrations that I pitched to create 3D prototypes of the dolls. Now, one thing I have to mention about working at Mattel is that when we come up with doll lines, it's not a cookie cutter process. They come up in all sort of different ways. Like this one, for example, Monster High, came from the original idea of Garrett, who is a very talented designer, and he felt very passionate about it that he pitched it to the department boss. Our boss wanted different iterations of this doll. So I wasn't the only one that created prototypes. It was open to other designers. I believe Garrett also created prototypes. At that time, I was a manager. I was managing my scene within Barbie, and I had designers reporting to me, and I was managing them with my scene product, but we also took on doing this Monster High. So I remember having 1 or 2 designers also working on this project, as well as myself. At some point, when the dolls were completed, a next step and show them in focus groups. And we showed them to little girls. Always the girls hands down kept picking the dolls I created, which were these right here. These are the original prototypes that I created with a talented sculptor, Adam DeFelice. He's amazing. These were the ones that were picked. Now, a little bit about Monster High for me is I created these 3 first ones, my interpretation of Frankie, Draculaura, and Claudine. But later on, when they moved forward, then I created Cleo and Laguna. And what I mean by when I created Monster High, I mean I designed the 5 original sculpts, as well as the body that all the dolls use. So I created 5 different face sculpts that were then sculpted by Adam based on my specifications, as well as the body. And also my contribution to the face paint and the styling of it, since I hand painted the original dolls myself. The rest of all the dolls were based on those 5 original, and for a long time they used the same body with different monster specification features for them, and that's for the original dolls that you saw back when they first initially launched. That's what I mean by I created the Monster High dolls. When in the focus group process, the moderators, which is the person in charge of handling the focus group and asking the girls questions, also asked them for the girls to pick their favorite fashion. So the girls they picked and choose what they wanted, and hence the dolls ended up with the fashions that they did, and not necessarily ended up with the fashions I created for them. I think I only kept the boots from Draculaura. And then Cleo's original outfit was designed by another very talented designer within Mattel. And then Laguna was later designed, and I designed her. She's the one that I designed from head to toe, including the fashion that she's wearing and the doll itself. The dolls were picked, they were produced, and I was very excited. My design team was working on them. Gary would give some input and his thoughts on what he thought, since he was the creator of the story. During that time, during my maternity leave, I get a call from my immediate boss saying that, you know, there's been a restructuring of the departments. My scene team no longer is working on Monster High, and Garrett is now going to lead that group. And we're going to focus on my scene and on Barbie. And there was not much I can do. I was on maternity leave. I was, you know, enjoying my baby, and, you know, I was not gonna argue with my boss. The decisions that were made by upper management, you kind of just have to go about your business. So, and that was it. I came back, and we no longer were working on Monster High. We were focusing on my scene and Barbie. And that's my involvement with Monster High.
That was a very interesting insight on the creating of a doll line process. It was I've never really heard someone talk about it this way, so it's really amazing that she shared her story, and there's definitely so much more information to take away from her full story that you can watch on TikTok. Again, linked down below. It's very interesting. She also talks about, you know, her heritage and just her time at Mattel and how it really just opened up many doors for her. So very amazing. Just thank you to Lily Martinez again for sharing her story. And now let's talk about these juicy early concept design sketches and doll prototypes. What? So first we have these very early sketches of the Draculaura character and of the Claudine character. So it takes you a second to like process that these were initially what were thought of Draculaura and Claudine. Like, these could be how the dolls would have looked like in a different world, like in a different lifetime, different universe. This is what this is it. Like, this is what they would have looked like. So it's kind of insanely amazing. It just really makes you think of everything like you thought you knew. Like, and you realize that there's really a lot more that we don't know about Monster High, and that probably in the future will get revealed as, you know, time goes on and more designers come forth about their experience with creating and being a part of creating Monster High designs. Because while these sketches look amazing, you heard Lily in the TikTok, she clearly mentioned that there were multiple people at the same time creating their own, you know, interpretations and designs for the characters of Claudine, Draculaura, and Frankie. So imagine, you know, one day we're going to get to see those designs from those people, hopefully. It just makes you really think that, you know, every person really has a different version of what Monster High would have looked like. Isn't that amazing? I really hope that the other designers who worked on Monster High and also created their own designs, I hope they really also come forth and show us what they created, because I think it's really fascinating to see, again, every person's individual take on Monster High. It's so amazing. So for the fully illustrated versions, here we have Draculaura, and she looks quite different, but she probably looks the most similar out of the bunch to her final version, because she does have black hair here. She has, you know, the heart on the cheeks, and they kept that on one cheek for the final Draculaura. And then her outfit does look very similar to her outfit, like the collar, the buttons, and, you know, like the sleeves, but obviously it's just way different here. It's more like just trendy modern, and obviously what they went with is more of like actually like medieval looking, you know what I mean? Like, it's more old looking, vintage looking. The skirt, mini skirt with like a studded belt, amazing. And then the tights with these like pattern, and the boots, as you maybe heard, the boots are like the only thing that they ended up keeping from her original design. on the finalized version of the Draculaura doll, which, I mean, you can clearly recognize the iconic boots, and honestly, they look amazing here as well. They really barely changed the boots at all. Looks amazing. Also, the umbrella. They also kept the umbrella for her, which looks cool here as well. I think she looks, it's almost like she's bounding as a Monster High Draculaura character. It's like Disney bounding, but here it's like Monster High bounding. So it's this design, obviously it's much more human than what we ended up getting. I feel like the designs overall are much more like human based in reality, and it's more like they're just maybe like taking on these personas as, you know, daughters of famous monsters. Like, this is what this is giving, and I honestly don't mind. I feel like there could be like a market for a doll line like this, where it's not Monster High, it's more like trendy modern, but still like inspired by monsters. I don't know, I feel like this is just, it's so cute, and it's very unique because, again, it's very different from Monster High, and it's still very alike to Monster High in its own way. Then we have Frankie, and I definitely recognize Frankie here. We have the same stitching, you know, little stitching going across the cheek, and then the color scheme, also very Frankie, like maybe not the red, but the blue, the like denim blue, and also like the patchwork kind of aesthetic that the dress has. That's definitely giving me Frankie, because Frankie, obviously, she's always wearing plaid. She's always wearing like stitched together outfits from different fabrics. And this is kind of like what Frankie would be wearing, but just doesn't look like Frankie. So I can definitely see what they took here from this design and what they, kept for the finalized version of Frankie. And then the tights, the shoes look amazing. And then also like there's little stitch work, little stitches going around the ankles. Amazing. Like, they actually kept that in. And also across the arms, she also has some stitches. So they did keep a lot of inspired elements here. And it's just really the hair and the red that's like not Frankie, but everything else I can definitely see some semblance of Frankie in it. So amazing. And lastly, we have Claudine. Now, she looks like really different, but also, again, very similar to Claudine. The hair kind of giving me Claudine. It's just blonde here, but honestly kind of makes me want to see a Claudine doll with blonde hair. That would be amazing. And then the headband and the dress she's wearing, it's very cutesy. Like, definitely I don't think ever Claudine would wear a dress like that, but it looks amazing. And then also interesting is that here they actually gave her like a dog nose painted on. Like with the most recent G3 Claudine, they also gave her a painted nose, to make it look more like a werewolf nose. And here, very interesting how it kind of comes full circle. Here in the early concept art, she's also painted on with a dog nose type of look. So very interesting. And then the dress also looking very vintage, cutesy. The tights and the shoes, probably like the most Claudine-esque looking item in this design. I love the shoes. They're like little poofy up top, and then they're showing the toes on the bottom, which they did keep for the finalized version. They just didn't keep the actual fluff on the top, which I feel like maybe they should have. Maybe some fluff on the top. Like, that would have been so cute. We have this blurry picture of the three main ghouls, of course, and here Claudine looks a little bit more like she has a darker skin tone, so maybe she was supposed to be a person of color, because in the early concept art, obviously, like we saw, she seems to be white. But obviously, these are also, we got to remember, these were like very in the beginning of the process. Like, things were bound to change anyways. So I'm very glad that they ended up keeping Claudine as a, POC, because it's obviously what makes her very iconic today. And then the actual outfits, the face-ups look amazing. Like here with this more clearer picture, I just, like, what? And like Lily said, like, that she hand painted the face-ups. Like, that is insane. Like, they look amazing. Look at that makeup, the cut crease on Draculaura, the headband, the hair, the details on this outfit, on these outfits, they just look Yeah, amazing. I definitely I like these dolls look really cool. Like, also, I really wish we would have gotten to see Cleo and Laguna. Especially seeing how different, you know, Claudine, Draculaura, and Frankie look like here, and they're more rooted in like the reality, you know, human-based reality with natural skin tones. Maybe Laguna would have had a natural skin tone as well. No blue skin, you know, no fins. Maybe fins actually. I don't know, but like she would have looked different, you know. And it's just so interesting. And then Cleo as well, like what about the mummy wraps, like what would they like, just it's just seeing how glammed up and like heavily Mycene inspired these early versions look like. I really want to see Laguna and Cleo. Like they would have looked so good. Like, yes, they wouldn't have looked like themselves, but they would have looked so good in their own, you know, respect, like their own, you know, in their own right. They would have looked amazing, you know, because these dolls also look amazing in their own right, without anything having to do with Monster High. Like they still look amazing. They look like a Monster High Mycene inspired, and it's really curious how there's really a lot more, you know, to Monster High, the history that we don't know. I also put up polls on my Instagram story just to see like what people thought about these early sketches and early prototype dolls, and you know, which they preferred, the original or the finalized versions of the characters. And obviously, like you can probably tell, like majority of people like voted for the, you know, finalized versions, just because I think they were on the right track, like having these inspirations, these like little touches and flares of monsterisms in the designs, in the prototypes. But obviously, like what makes Monster High so special is that they just really look so different. They look really unique, really like out there, and they're just not comparable to Mycene. And you can also not confuse them with Mycene. With these early versions, you could easily maybe confuse these dolls, these designs, with maybe Mycene dolls that were going to like a costume ball or like a carnival themed. But with the finalized versions of the dolls and the concept art, you really cannot mistake these with Mycene or Barbie. These are literally like the finalized versions of Monster High dolls. Like they are so unique. They are something brand new, and that's what they ended up being. They ended up being a brand new phenomenon for Mattel, but we already knew that. So it's very fascinating seeing the comparisons of how the characters changed. You know, it's really fascinating. That was the video. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I really want to know what you think of these early, you know, looks at the prototypes, sketches of what Monster High characters Frankie, Draculaura, and Claudine were at one point gonna look like. So let me know what you think down below. And as always, leave me a like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already, so you don't miss out when I post more content like this coming your way daily and keeping you up to date with all the doll tea you love. Stay safe, be kind. I hope this next time. Stay peachy. Kisses.